Hey, everybody. Welcome
Hello.
once again to the ABA's. Yeah, I assumed that meant that we were ready to go, huh?
Yeah. We're
Hey,
ready.
everybody. Welcome once again to the ABA's biweekly What's This Bird live program. My name is Nate Swick. I am the digital communications manager for the American Birding Association, and I host the American Birding Podcast. And I'm joined, per usual, back after 2 episodes in the wilderness. Greg Neise, my colleague, the webmaster, master of the web here at the American Birding Association. Greg,
Howdy
how you
ho,
doing?
boys
Welcome
and
back.
girls.
Yeah,
It's been a month.
we're here to talk birds and birding. If you're not familiar with the American Birding Association, we are the continent's premier birding advocacy group. I think we could fairly say that. I think that's a pretty fair assessment of what we do here.
Yeah.
And we love to chat birds and bird watching and bird ID and building your bird school skills and just kind of geeking out about birds. All of that stuff is well within our realm, our range of expertise. And we're excited to talk to you. We are going live on a number of ABA's Facebook groups, as well as on the ABA's Twitter feed and the ABA's YouTube channel. We're in a lot of places. So we're going to try and keep track of everything that is going on here. If you have any questions about birds or birding, please feel free to let us know in the comments. We'll be following those along.
Comments down over there someplace. You'll see them over there.
Depends
Yeah,
on where you're watching, where they are. They could be anywhere. I have no idea where they're going to be. But we're excited to talk birds and birding with you. And so I'll talk a little bit about what the ABA's What's This Bird page is. The What's This Bird is a ABA Facebook group. It's essentially a crowdsourced bird identification community where people post photos of birds that they've seen in their yards and their birding excursions wherever, and our friendly community of birding enthusiasts and admins and ABA staff members help them to identify those birds frequently, pretty quickly, but every once in a while we get some weirdos, and that's where Greg and I come in to talk a little bit about bird identification and how we make those identifications.
Boy, you had that whole thing like written out and planned or something.
Boom!
I mean,
that just vomit.
That had pre-planned all over it, which is something I tend not to do. So
I'm a pro, or at least I pretend to be.
Hi, Mia, Kate, and Len, who say hi in the live chat. And so one of the things about this live thing we do here is you can, as I just said, you can say hi and give us a shout out. But if you've got a question or something you'd like us to talk about, pop it in the chat, and we will do our best to answer the question or talk about it. And so yeah, hit us in the chat.
Absolutely.
With your
we have
questions
snagged
and
a
thoughts.
few of we've snagged a few interesting bird photos that have been posted to the What's This Bird group in the last few days. We're going to talk a little bit about those, but we're happy to talk about just about anything having to do with birds or birding. Anything you want to hear us chat about, we are here for that.
So
but we'll be here for about an hour taking your bird questions and talking about bird ID.
How is November treating you?
October was better. I'll tell you that. I don't know whether it's a climate change or whatever, but October was better for rarities in North Carolina. It's finally starting to cool down here. Today was in the 30s this morning, so a little bit chilly taking the kids out to the bus stop. But there's some birds around, and we're well into the winter bird cohort. Juncos are starting to arrive. Sparrows are coming in numbers, increasing every day. Most of the warblers have vamoosed, with the exception of our year-round pine warblers and our recently arrived yellow-rumped warblers. How about you, Greg? What's the upper Midwest like in terms of birds and weather?
Well, it's been boring. But that's, I'm talking about now the last month or so since I've seen you here.
It's been a while.
October was warm. November, going into November, was very unseasonably warm. And then in the last, there was a thing in your ear.
I couldn't tell whether this one was working or not.
In the last week or so, we've gotten the weather that makes people question why they moved here in the first place, or why they continue to live here if they were born here. It just, that gloppy, wet, gray, just 10-foot ceilings. And we had kind of an interesting. So far, the rarities haven't really shown up, but there was one that was kind of interesting. We had, I've talked about it many times here, Montrose Point, which is it's a quite famous birding area. And Steve, as always, is one step ahead of me. I think he just likes to do that. He knows what I'm going to talk about and just dumps it in the chat. But that's okay.
Black Vulture.
Yeah. So
did they spoil it?
That's no. Steve spoiled it. So there was a black vulture that showed up on the Chicago lakefront, which is very rare. And
I was going to say I saw like 5 or 6 of them this morning already. So
yeah, well, no, we don't get them. We don't get them up here. They're coming closer, and we're it's just a matter of time before black vulture is regular in northern Illinois. But this bird showed up on the Chicago lakefront, and rather than just a high flying migrating over, which is typically what happens, this bird was on the ground. It was on lampposts. It was on fence posts.
Doing black vulture things.
And it was, it turns out it was not well, and the bird was taken to a rehab. The bird was taken to a rehab facility. But the interesting part there is, I've written about sitting in my backyard watching the skies for just such a thing as a black vulture. And after this bird was taken into rehab, somebody in one of my local neighborhood groups on Facebook, just like a community group, posted a picture of the black vulture like down the street from me. There's a black vulture in my yard.
You could have gone after it, kind of chased it over into your yard to see if you can.
It was just right down the street.
Not that we endorse that sort of thing at the American Birding Association.
No, we don't do that. No, they just do that in California. No.
Sing.
Sing.
Yes. And before we get going on the birds that we have chosen, I will share a little bit of information about some fun stuff that we have coming up at the ABA. If you are in the Philadelphia area, we are doing a special 2022 ABA Bird of the Year reveal party at Triple Bottom Brewing on the December is it the 19th? It's the Sunday the 19th at 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock.
Exactly.
Come on out.
A month from right now.
Exactly a month. Yeah. There'll be a bunch of ABA folks there. I'll be there. I'm coming up from North Carolina. I'm taking the train. It'll be fun. So we're gonna reveal the 2022 Bird of the Year. Christina Ball is the artist. She is phenomenal. She'll be there as well. We have a big party. If you've been missing talking about birds and birding with people for I don't know, coming up on 20 months now. It's a great opportunity to do that with a bunch of safe and healthy and most likely vaccinated people, and we'll have a really good time. A great celebration of birding and the 2022 Bird of the Year. It's a really good one. I think you're going to love it. You're going to love the art.
I've seen the artwork. So, it's phenomenal, and
it's very good. You can buy tickets at aba.org/Bird of the Year.
Yeah, or just go to aba.org. There's a banner at the top. Click the banner.
Yeah, there you go. That's
take you right there. So I guess we should just dive right in here, I guess, at this point.
Yeah, let's do the thing.
Let's do the thing. All right, let me see. I gotta make sure. I make sure all my thing buttons work here. It's been a while.
You got to. You never know.
There we go. It
look
works.
At that.
Yay!
Fancy. Perfect. It's Gull season.
It's Gull season,
it's getting there.
And this one comes from New York State, and the reason I picked this bird is because, at least when I left it, it was identified as a ring-billed gull. And I don't know. It does have
a ring bill. It is a gull with a ring bill.
It's a gull with a ringed bill, exactly. And I don't know if that's been corrected since in the last hour. But this is not a ring-billed gull. And I'm going to just switch over here to the next image where we are going to compare this bird with a ring-billed gull.
An actual ring-billed gull?
So the first thing that's a couple.
Yeah. The first thing that stuck out to me at this bird was the fact that the bill is pretty massive and pink.
Pink.
Those are things that neither of those things are very ring-billed gull. Ring-billed gull is actually kind of a middle-sized gull. But as far as the white-headed gulls go, it is definitely on the small side. And once again, I'm going to talk a little bit when we talk about small, we talk about size. I think a lot of the time we're talking about proportion.
Sure.
And it has small features, kind of a dainty bill, a small, cute dove-like head. Whereas the original bird from New York has none of those things. That is a honkin' bill. That is a mean-looking head with a little tiny eye. That gull is looking to do some damage, and it is definitely not a ring-billed gull.
Yeah, one of my favorite essays that I wrote quite a while ago was titled Herg, H-E-R-G, which is the Bander's code for herring gull, and I likened the herring gull to a Norse god that comes sweeping down to steal the children and eat them in front of you. And it's just herring gulls.
That sounds like herring gulls to me.
Big gulls in particular, and herring gulls, they just have, especially at this age, where they're all kind of modelly, but they've got that piercing yellow eye and the kind of mascara around the eye. They just have this mean look about them, like you said.
They do.
Whereas you look at the two ring-billed gulls on the right, and they kind of look like, you'd want to invite them over for
plush
tea and crumpets or something.
It's a beanie baby.
They're kind of cute. But the bill, look at the bill structure, especially the young bird. So one thing to look at here is on the left, the herring gull has a pink bill with a black ring on it. A ring-billed gull with pink on the bill would never have. It probably is not going to have a pale eye because they have dark eyes when they're young.
Yeah.
So if it's got a yellow eye, it's not going to have that pink bill. But look at how blurry and streaky the herring gull is on the left, and it's just kind of smudgy. The ring-billed gull, the streaking on the head is crisper and finer, so this bird is a herring gull, and that's two ring-billed gulls and an adult in winter plumage, and then a first-year bird on the right.
Yeah, and another thing, if that herring gull were standing up, you would see that it has pink legs, as opposed to the. Sometimes are you going to say there's always an exception with gulls?
No. It would have pink legs, but at certain ages, ring-billed gull can have pink legs.
Can also have pink legs. Yeah, I bring that up because I note that adult ring-billed gull definitely has those classic kind of straw-colored, maybe a little greeny yellow legs, which is I always think of when I think of ring-billed gulls.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more of these. One of the things about being an admin or being involved in the What's This Bird group is that you tend to see the same sorts of birds that can sort of cycle with the seasons. And we are coming up on gull season as all the gulls that breed in northern Canada and in places where there aren't a lot of people start funneling down into places where there are a lot of people. And gulls, obviously, people can get real nice photos of them because they kind of loaf around on the beach. And so we see a lot of gulls in the winter months. And What's This Bird? And
there were a couple of others that I had my finger on, but I thought, no, we'll dip our toe into the shallow end of the pool.
We'll do it.
And start the season. Start the season with the most common pair, which is herring and ring-billed.
Yeah.
So we got a bird in the mulch in the garden down here, and
mulchy bird.
We can kind of tell how big this bird is by the substrate that it's standing on. Yeah. So it's not a very big bird.
Not terribly, yeah.
So streaky. I see some green. Besides the streaky face, the thing that stands out most to me is that greenish yellow rump.
Yeah, for sure. And I think when we see sort of a streaky bird hopping around on the ground, the first thing you want to do is say, is it a sparrow? And the answer for this bird is no, because it has a long, sort of thin, narrow bill as opposed to the shorter conical bill that you would expect to see on our sparrows. And, just structurally, it doesn't look good for sparrows, which tend to be kind of large, round-bodied, round head and with a kind of a longer tail. A little pot-bellied. This one's a lot more svelte. It's a lot more slender, which definitely puts it out of the sparrow family and into the warbler family with that kind of narrow bill and long body.
And of course, now looking at the color, none of our sparrows have yellow or greenish rump.
It's also true. Not
undertail.
Yeah.
So what are our choices here?
Well, in Florida, let's see. If we're talking about warblers in Florida this time of year, yellow rumps are around. Pine warbler is around. Palm warbler is around. Those are the three biggies. There might be some Cape May warblers around, kind of lingering into November, but that would not likely be on the ground. But those are the four that immediately spring to mind that are kind of brown and streaky.
Yeah, and I think that the on the ground part is pretty key here. Although any bird can land on the ground, but that I keep going back to that greenish what we see on the rump area, and that's really there's only two warblers that would look like this, and one would be Cape May and the other would be palm. And the streaky face with a capped look, that is just classic palm warbler.
Classic palm warbler, of which there are many, many thousands on any given day
in Florida.
They are that is in fact where they got their name, I believe. Well, they got it in the Caribbean. The first person who saw one, collected one, did so in a palm tree. But it is the one place where you can find palm warblers around palm trees is in Florida. They hop around in yards, in neighborhoods, in lawns, on golf courses, all the places you'd expect to see one. They're actually really, really common in the winter in Florida. You would see a lot of them. But yeah, one of the things about palm warbler is that it has a colloquial name of a wagtail warbler, because when you see a palm warbler hopping around, it is almost always bobbing that tail up and down and up and down. That's a real nice behavioral cue. There are some other warblers that do that as well. Prairie warbler comes to mind. It frequently bobs its tail. Yellow rumped can kind of flick its tail, but none to the extent that palm warbler does, which is a real deliberate bobbing.
Kirtlands, but
Kirtlands. Okay, well that's less. Yeah. That's even less likely.
Well, we'll push that aside for now.
Cape May.
But that's something to we talk about that frequently. Is identifying a bird from a single image like this is usually much more difficult than seeing the bird in real life in front of you.
Yes.
Because if this bird were hopping around on the ground, you would instantly know what it is by the behavior that Nate just described. And you wouldn't, it wouldn't take very much thought to figure out what this bird is. Oren says hello from Israel. Hello. So it's got to be
Oren.
What time of the
Shalom?
I can't. What's the time difference?
About 7 or 8 hours difference, I think. So it's gonna be
It's late in the day or early in the morning there. It's
late in the day.
Late in the day. It's late in the evening. Okay. Let's push on here.
Yeah.
And we get a lot of these
season.
Yeah, these are as reliable as the Santa Ana winds, and every year we get as the flocks of Canada geese move around the ABA area, they always tend to pick up a few of these manky geese, and they're all different sizes and shapes and colors, and sometimes you'll get some hybrids, but that's not what we're looking at here.
When we're trying to determine whether we're seeing hybrids, hybrids are frequently sort of a halfway point between the two species that you're thinking about. And while geese do frequently interbreed, Canada, especially with things like greater white-fronted goose or snow goose, structurally, I don't really see anything that suggests that these are not Canada geese. If it was a snow goose, I would expect to see maybe a shorter neck, a little bit deeper belly, greater white-fronted goose is sort of the same way. They're definitely different shaped than these kind of large Canada geese, especially.
I mean, and look at how big they are and thick-necked and just kind of bulky they are compared to the Canada geese to the left. And that's a easy tip-off that you're looking at a barnyard escape hybrid-y, you know. And I should say it's not necessarily a hybrid, although if it's like a Canada Chinese swan goose or something like that, yes, then it is a hybrid, and that's kind of what the bird on the left looks like, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
But the bottom line is these birds are barnyard escapes or hybrids of barnyard escapes, and are generally just domestic goose is what you call them.
Yeah, and geese like to hang out together, and they don't really seem to care what species are around. It is fairly common for uncommon geese, like the sort of geese that we get excited about here in the Southeast, especially things like greater white-fronted and snow goose and Ross's goose. They will just put in with whatever local Canada goose flock they kind of run into. And so it's always a nice idea to, if you see a flock of Canada geese, kind of pause and take a closer look at them, and you might see something unusual in there. Obviously, a snow goose or Ross's goose would stand out pretty obviously because they're so white, but something like a white-fronted goose would very easily kind of blend in if you're in a place where that goose is less common. But yeah, I mean, geese don't care. They'll hang out with any goose. They just pick them up and they just go wherever the geese go.
You know, and one thing, the barnyard geese are generally bred for size. I mean, not always. Some of them are bred to be diminutive, actually. But typically, the ones that you see like this, they're big, pot-bellied, heavy, and they really just don't look like wild geese.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they look funky, like these.
Funky, yeah.
Okay, geese.
All right.
What I do think is interesting. I'm sorry. Could you go back to that one, the geese, just real quick? Yeah, one of the things that I think is really cool is that the one on the right with the dark bill. Yeah. The bill is the same color as the other Canada geese. You just definitely don't really think about it too much because the rest of the head is dark. But when the head is all pale like that, it's kind of a striking goose.
It is. It is, and it reminds you of I think there's a South American goose that I can't put
Orinoco goose or something like that.
Yeah, that's got a white head with a black bill like that. That's rather striking looking.
Yeah.
So this was a fun one because the person who posted this. Now, you know what? I think I blew it on the tag. That's not Salida, Colorado. That's in California somewhere. And
I believe Colorado too.
Yeah, but I remember
species could be found just about anywhere.
It's true. That's true. But I think this one was in California, and I blew it on the tag. But anyways, the person who posted these thought they were the same bird. So they took one picture, and then the bird flew, and then they got another picture of what they thought was the same bird. But it turns out it's two different birds and two different species.
It's interesting. So just to start at the beginning, what we're looking at are obviously two raptors. They are hawks. You can tell by the sort of short curved bill. And furthermore, we can narrow it down even more to the genus Accipiter, largely because of that very long tail, long banded tail you can see on the bird on the left. And I mean, you can't really see the tail on the bird on the right, but
you kind of can. It comes down. I mean, you can see where the primary tips don't make it past that green foliage, and you can see the tips. You can see the tips of the tail down below. You know, a good ways down below.
On a buteo or a buteo, or however you want to pronounce that, they typically have longer wings and a shorter tail.
Buteo.
And these buteo, whatever it is.
I don't.
These accipiters have short wings and a long tail. So we've got three species of accipiters here in North America: sharp-shinned hawk, Cooper's hawk, and northern goshawk. And that is one of the more difficult ID conundrums, or one of the more frequently confusing ID conundrums.
And there ain't no goshawk here, so let's talk about the other two.
No goshawk. No, these are not goshawks.
Yeah. Nelson Briefer would be unhappy here because we do not have a goshawk here.
Inside joke.
Inside joke. So the bird on the left, this is something I talk about frequently when we look at the two more common accipiters. This bird on the left just has the face. I laugh when I see this because it's so classic of this species. So I'm just going to cut to the chase. This is a sharp-shinned hawk on the left, and it just looks like a startled parakeet. You know, it just there's structural reasons for this. It's the eyes are they tend to be closer to the front of the face. They are they look forward a little bit more. They're not on the side of the head as much as they are on the Cooper's hawk. But again, it's really subtle, and that little sort of bony ridge over the eye is not as pronounced, and it just gives it gives a sharp-shinned hawk this kind of like startled look, like you opened the bathroom door on it or something. And it's hard to see, and it's subtle, but when you know to look for it, it's almost always there.
Yeah. I mean, that's definitely one of the things that really stands out to me whenever I see a photo of a sharp-shinned hawk. They even the larger ones, the females, which tend to be confused for small male Cooper's hawks, do frequently have that kind of startled expression, the very wide-eyed expression, surprised, however you want to do it. As compared certainly to the bird on the right, the Cooper's hawk, which definitely has a sterner, more fierce impression that is sort of based on the eye being somewhat smaller on the face, the heavier brow, the flatter forehead, things like that. It definitely has a different look, a different expression, and that is one thing that frequently stands out in these sort of one-off photos when you can't see a lot else. So both a sharp-shinned and a Cooper's hawk in this photo. And also I'm sort of drawn by the proportions of the Cooper's hawk over here. They seem very large-bodied and small-headed sometimes, somewhat shaped like a bowling pin to some extent, whereas a sharp-shinned hawk, tends to be more, like even. The head does not feel so small on top of the body.
Yeah, the body tends to be hawk. The body tends to be a little slimmer and more tubular.
And
it's not as heavy.
They tend to be widest. The widest point on a perched sharp-shinned hawk tends to be the chest, whereas it's a little bit lower.
We can also see on the Sharpie on the left that it's coming into adult plumage, and we can see the sort of hooded look. Where it's got that sort of gray hood that just goes over the nape, and even though the lighting's not very good on the bird on the right, you can still see how that it's got a capped look to it, like it's got a dark cap that you just don't see on the bird on the left.
Which is funny because usually you would expect that, the old saying, Coopers have a black cap, Sharpies have a plastic cap.
There you go.
It's a pen.
There you go.
That's a pen joke.
But yeah, I mean, you just look at the expression on these two birds' faces, and like I said, the Sharpie, looks like you just turned on the lights and it was doing something. Whereas the Cooper's hawk is going to eat your favorite mourning dove and just make you watch. It's just like, I don't care about anything.
Yeah, it's nice. You don't always see these two species together, but it's cool that worked out that way.
Yeah.
And
and it's good that you didn't see the Coopers eat the Sharpie, because I bet that happens.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I bet the Sharpie would put up a fight.
Oh yeah.
It's duck season 2.
So this is a fun one, because Merlin gave an ID. So the person who posted this one said that Merlin, that is the bird identification app from Cornell, they ran this through Merlin, and it came up with an identification of black scoter. And this is, I would not fault anyone for looking at this bird and looking through a book and going, oh, we got a match there. That's a black scoter.
My guess for that would be that there are probably, because it's machine learning, and it learns based on photos that have been submitted to eBird, is that there are far more photos of black scoter in flight than there are of this bird, this species, in flight.
And this is another example of when you see it in real life versus a photo. So this is a male ruddy duck in winter plumage. And here it is compared with a female black scoter, which is what Merlin thought it was.
Yeah, it's not too far off.
It's got the black cap, it's got the big bill, it's got the pale cheek, it's overall dark. But that's where it ends. And, you know, what Nate was saying about not very many pictures of ruddy ducks in flight, I can tell you most black scoters that I've seen have been birds migrating in flight in long lines low over the water, whereas most ruddy ducks I've seen have not been flying. And when they do fly, they look like an overladen bumblebee. It's like they're flapping wildly and crazily fast, and they're like everything just to try to stay in the air, and they just looks like they're going to crash into the water at any moment, whereas black scoter is this big, heavy-bodied bird, and it's a powerful flyer. And, you know, you see them on windy, choppy days flying in lines through the wave troughs. A very, very different experience when you see both of these birds in flight.
For sure. As you say, like the black scoter, just in terms of difference, the size is rather different. And also, you know, again, when we talk about size, a lot of times we're talking about proportion. You can see on the ruddy duck, the head is generally much bigger in comparison to the body than the head on the black scoter. But that's because the body is so big on a scoter. I mean, that's a really heavy bird. Yeah. And, you know, the classic little stiff tail that you always see on ruddy ducks when they're sitting on the water is not visible here because it's kind of laid down flat over the feet because the bird is in flight. But that bill, I mean, the bill is very distinctive on both of these birds. Ruddy duck has that massive kind of ski ramp sort of bill, whereas the black scoter has a bit of a forehead. When I think of scoters that have that big bill, it's more of a surf scoter, white-winged scoter sort of thing. Black scoter has a very rounded head and sort of a more stubbier bill comparatively.
But and again, like we said before with some of the other birds that we've been talking about today, seeing these birds in real life, you know, when they're flying by, you don't have time to see the things that we just discussed. When you're talking about a photo, you can talk about, you know, the bill size and the forehead and everything else. When it's flying by and you got it in the scope or binoculars, or you're trying to follow it with your camera, you can't see any of that really, or not very much.
You get sort of an impression of it rather than any individual field mark. Yeah,
exactly. And the difference that these two birds present in real life when they're flying is as different as night and day. So, as we've said before,
the difference between night and dawn, maybe. I mean, they're close.
Okay, night and dawn.
They you just see them in different places at different times. I've seen ruddy ducks over the. It's funny, like I have seen ruddy ducks over the ocean before. But
here we get ruddy ducks and black scoters together quite frequently on Lake Michigan or on some of the lakes and stuff. All righty then. Let's push on.
Before we do that, I do want to pause and take a question from one of our YouTube visitors.
Sure.
Yigman Freedy said, "What are your opinions on the Burgess Bird Book for Children?" And I have to admit that I am not familiar with that title.
I don't know it.
So if anyone who is watching on Facebook or Twitter or YouTube is familiar with the Burgess Bird Book for Children, please let us know, and I'll pass that information on to Yingman.
So we've got Teddy from Indonesia saying hi, and it's got to be middle of the night, like
it's like 12 hours difference.
Yeah, so it's like 1 o'clock in the morning there.
It's tomorrow there, yeah.
So this one is, as we were discussing earlier, a buteo or buteo. It is a hawk. I don't think anybody would look at this bird and think it's anything other than a hawk.
Could be an owl. I'm just trying to play the Ted Floyd role.
Yeah, I mean,
no, look, I agree.
I mean, hey, there's yeah, I mean, it's
the way
got
that
big
it's
eyes.
looking, you might be mistaken for thinking that it has sort of a shorter bill and a rounder face. But if it turned to the profile, once again, if we were in the field and we watched this bird kind of looking around, you would see that it's probably more hawky than owly.
And you know, the reason I picked this bird out to talk about again was something we've been kind of a little theme we've had going here, and that's structure. And two things, because we have such a good look at this bird. So the person who took this, you know, if this is digiscoped or you know, with a long lens, the bird is perched. It seems relaxed, at least for a while. So you're getting a really good look at this bird. You can kind of soak in the details. And you know, one of the things we notice right away is that it has long wings. The wingtips,
long wings.
The wingtips come to the end of the tail, and there's only a couple of our buteos that that have long wings like that. You know, 2 or 3 that have long wings like that come to the end of the tail. Now, if this was an accipiter like we just discussed, the tail would be much longer than the wingtips, and it would be very obvious in this pose. But the thing I wanted to look at here was the face, and this bird has a unique face among our birds of prey, or at least the buteos that it might be confused with. And in particular, the gape, and that is the yellow line of the mouth opening. And notice how big that bird's mouth is. The gape goes all the way to the back of the eye.
Yeah.
And that's because this bird just downs things like prairie dogs in one gulp. It's got ground squirrels, just like gulp, down it goes. And that is unique to Ferruginous hawk among our hawks, to have that big, wide, that big, long gape and the wide mouth.
Ferruginous comes from the Latin ferrus, which is iron, and it refers to the rusty color, because iron rusts, the rusty color of the bird, and it is kind of a warm brown rusty color on a Ferruginous hawk.
Yeah, and Chris Ortega says Swainson's and this bird. Any others?
Swainson's is the other one.
Swainson's would be the other bird with long wings in this bird's range that would have long wings like this. But when you get down into other places like South Texas, there's a couple of buteos that have long wings. Yeah, exactly. White-tailed hawk.
But it's not a beauty. I don't think white-tailed hawk is a buteo anymore. I think they changed it.
Yeah. But I'm, you know, for
with those peripheral buteos.
For our discussion here, they're similar enough that
they do buteo things. Yeah,
they do. Exactly.
Another cool thing about Ferruginous hawk is that it is our one buteo that has feathered. No, it's not. There's a couple other ones, but it has feathered tarsi, which means that the feathers go all the way down to the toes. So it's got stockings, whereas a lot of other buteos have bare legs. So what is it? It's Ferruginous,
rough-legged,
which obviously rough-legged, yeah.
And you know, Ferruginous used to be called Ferruginous rough-legged hawk. And despite their differences, they can be quite similar in general impression.
Ferruginous hawk in flight is very eagly. It looks close to like a golden eagle. The big, flat, broad wings, very large buteo. I think it is our largest buteo.
It is, and the wings are kind of long, and as we can see here, the wings are long, and they're kind of uniquely shaped. They got like a little point, almost like a Swainson's hawk, but not as pronounced.
Susan Nelson in Facebook notes that she worked with Ferruginous hawks years ago in wildlife rehab, and they are not to be handled by amateurs.
Oh yeah, you can tell that just by looking at this. I 100%
believe that. That is a mean-looking hawk.
I mean, just look at it. It's daring the photographer to get the hell out of the car and make something of it. You know, it's like that. Don't mess with that bird. Scott Heron, no, this is. Go ahead.
I was going to say this is an adult. You're saying it's not an adult. It looks like an adult to me.
I think it's it's not 100%.
That may be. Yeah. These large raptors take several years to reach the full adult plumage. And so there are a lot of sort of in between stages between the juvenile and the adult birds.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we can see a lot of molt going on here. You look at the primaries that we can see. Look, there's like a couple different colors of primaries in there.
It is.
But yeah, the thing I wanted to talk about here was the structure of this bird. And when you can get a good look at structure like this, that's always a key thing to pay attention to, which is going to lead us into another thing later on here. What do we have here?
We got a couple sparrows. Small songbirds, very streaky, brown, short, conical bill, triangular bill on both of these birds. These are Imberzid sparrows. These are North American sparrows. But they are not the same species.
No, they're not.
Even though they are superficially similar.
Yes, and the person, these were both posted by the same person in the same post. And I don't believe the person thought they were the same bird, as was with the case with the other bird we were talking about, the hawks. But the thing I wanted to point out here is something that we talk about quite a bit with these two birds, and this is kind of a good illustration of it. On the left, we have a song sparrow, and on the right, we have a savanna sparrow. And these are two species that are frequently confused. And the savanna sparrow is showing something really well here in this picture that can be a great help in telling these two apart. So look at how the face is framed by the whitish supercilium and the whitish malar mustache stripe. The brown auricular ear patch is framed by these white stripes that you don't really see on the song sparrow. The song sparrow, the face is the supercilium is gray, the malar is kind of buffy, and they all kind of it's not as distinct as it is in savanna sparrow. And,
this is especially true of these eastern savanna sparrows, which tend to be very finely marked. The savanna sparrows we talked about last time can be very variable across the width of the continent. With western birds seeming most song sparrowy to me, but the eastern ones, as you say, Greg, have that really clean white face, white marks on the face. Really nice birds.
From Pacific to Atlantic, there are many forms of both of these species that can be very confusing. But this is just a very sort of high level, broad kind of thing that tends to hold true, even though individual birds, as they say, your mileage may be different.
I'll tell you the first thing, and I'm going to note that Yingman Friede notes that technically now these are Passerellidae, not Emberizidae anymore. So I got the family wrong. The taxonomy has changed. They are not in the same family as the old world buntings, which are also sort of superficially similar. So thank you for that, Yingmen. I'll tell you the first thing, when I saw this photo, the first thing that stuck out to me was the structure and the shape. Which has always been one of my biggest helps in differentiating these two species. That savanna sparrow, especially, it's possibly because it is sort of perched up and very attentive and very alert posture, but you can tell that it's a much more slender, svelte bird. The tail is much shorter, especially in comparison with the body. The head is a little bit smaller, whereas that song sparrow is just super chunky, big head, big round body, and a very, very long tail that they drag when they fly, when they flush from a bush. They look like they're dragging that tail like it's such an imposition. Those are two things that always stand out to me when I see these two birds, which both frequently are kind of streaky brown things.
Yeah, I mean, when you see them together, and during migration, you can frequently see them together in city parks on the lawns.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're very, very they're very distinct when you see them side by side like that. Christy Reski is throwing some hell at us from Ash Canyon in Arizona. Hi, Christy. I think she meant to say hello.
I think she edited it.
I haven't. Well, it hasn't edited on. It hasn't changed on my end.
Yes, well, I'll tell you, Ash Canyon Bird Sanctuary is about the farthest place from hell you can find.
Yeah, that's true.
It's beautiful. I love that place. That's where I got my. Yeah, I saw. Well, actually, I thought I got my live Costa's hummingbird there, but it turned out to be a Costa's / Lucifer hybrid, which was actually sort of disappointing and very cool.
Oh, that hurts.
Yeah, hurt a little bit.
That hurts. So, we're going to, as we do here, we take your questions. We talk about things you want to talk about. So if there's anything that you want to talk about, throw it up in the chat. If you've got a question that you'd like to try to stump us with, or something you've been curious about. I already got stumped
on the Sparrow bird family. So.
Yeah.
Bring on the rest.
And as one of my favorite TV personalities might say, or does say almost every night, one last thing before we go is this.
Oh, that bird! He said
that was Brian Williams, by the way, who says one last thing before we go. Yeah, and we'll probably stick around for a little bit after this bird. But yeah, you asked for this.
Assuming we don't spend 20 minutes talking about this bird. Yeah. So what a bird. What a cool critter. People posted this bird and What's This Bird yesterday, and I immediately, I don't know, like it, obviously field marks, so many of the sort of traditional plumage field marks are thrown out the window with this thing, because this is some sort of color disadvantaged plumage abnormality bird here. I'm not exactly sure whether it's the albinistic or leucistic or any combination of those terms. I don't know those terms very well enough to use them, but it definitely has some issues going on here. And so funnily enough, I had a little trouble trying to tell what this bird was, because the first photo, the photo on the farthest left,
right,
my first impression was Eastern bluebird.
That was mine.
I mean, Eastern bluebird, fine.
When you tagged me, when you tagged me in this post, and I clicked on it and looked at it, the very first thing out of my brain was Eastern bluebird looking at the bird on the left.
And then I looked at the other photos where you can't see the primary projection, the long wings and stuff as well. And I thought, oh man, what am I? Is it Eastern bluebird? Because it kind of, the second photo, the middle photo, it kind of gives an Eastern phoebe, a flycatchery sort of vibe here. And then I was even further convinced by the weird angle of the photo in the right photo. In the rightmost photo. So I was like, it's either a phoebe or a bluebird, which are two birds that I wouldn't necessarily get mistaken in the field. But in this situation, we really have to think about the different structure in those species.
Well, yeah, and the photo on the right, and I would, if you only looked at that photo, I would not. If you thought that was a flycatcher, it certainly could be from that one photo, because and I think the fact that the bill and the gape are pink, it makes it look broader than it usually does when you see this bird in its normal plumage, because the normal plumage, it has a dark bill and a dark gape, and you don't see that the way that you would. But the bird on the left, the picture, it's not the bird on the left, the picture of this bird on the left. The photo on the left is just the classic dumpy, hunched over, long-winged Eastern bluebird.
Exactly.
And, there's no flycatcher really that looks like that at all.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I kept going back and forth, and I ended up going to eBird and pulling up photos of Eastern phoebe, which is a bird that I've seen literally thousands of times. But it caused me to think about it in different terms. And I could not find one with wings that long. So I started thinking, well, it's is it a lingering peewee? It's Georgia. It's not impossible for a peewee to sort of linger. And I was just going down this rabbit hole when I should have just gone with first guess, best guess.
Well, and again, structure, if it was a peewee, the feet would be tiny.
The feet would be tiny.
Peewees have tiny, teeny little feet.
They do. They really do. Yeah. And Alex Lamoureux in the comics brings up a really good point, and that is that, you can see in the photo on the right, it doesn't have the rictal bristles, which for people who maybe aren't familiar with bird terms, are effectively these feathers that grow out like tiny hairs on the sides of a flycatcher's bill, and it essentially turns the whole flycatcher's mouth into a giant net for catching flying insects. So it's got these rictal bristles. They're like extra feathers that help these birds snag flying insects, and that is a very flycatcher feature. All the tyrannid, I should say, flycatchers have rictal bristles, except for beardless tyrannulet, which is beardless. That's the reason it's beardless, because it doesn't have the rictal bristles. But yeah, right. I'm pretty sure that's the reason why.
I think you're right.
Maybe people connect it, but in any case, this bird clearly does not have it, and it's not a beardless tyrannulet in Cartersville, Georgia. It's an eastern bluebird, and he just goes to show how important structure is when we're talking about identifying these birds, when you are not able to look at things like classic field mice, like plumage and color and things like that. Just a really fascinating exercise in identifying this bird. This is a really cool bird. And I think bluebirds are sort of susceptible for these weird plumage abnormalities. This is the first one that I've heard of or seen, although this is the most extreme individual I have ever seen.
Yeah. Thrushes. American robins are another species that has a lot of plumage variations like this, but it's hard. It's rare to see one that's so snow white like this. This is as
cool
close to an actual albino as I've ever seen, I think.
Yep, for sure.
So this is an eastern bluebird. Steve Huggins brings up. He says, it's November, it's time to talk Rufus versus Allen's, talking about hummingbirds.
All the hummingbird bander.
That is going to, that is, I wouldn't say it's above our pay grade, because if the situation is correct, it's actually not that difficult of an identification. But the situation being
the right
correct
thing that's hard to see.
You've got to have it in your hand, which is hard to do, or have an extremely good picture of the spread tail. But the reason that I didn't just ignore Steve's comment is I wanted to talk about a bigger thing, and that is hummingbirds east of the Great Plains, or east of the Rocky Mountains.
The Rocky Mountains,
or east of anywhere east, anywhere that you would think of as east rather than west. In November, is most likely not going to be a ruby-throated hummingbird. Ruby-throats...
leave your feeders up, folks.
Leave your feet, and that is the thing that I wanted to address, is that all over Facebook now, rufous hummingbirds, and maybe even a few Allens and a few other strays like black-chinned or calliope, or they're showing
Annas,
up at... Annas is another vagrant that tends to show up east of its normal range. These birds are coming through now in November and December, and leave your hummingbird feeders up. And I see Facebook posts all over the place saying, no, don't do that because you're keeping the birds here and killing them. No, that's not the way that works. They don't
care about that.
No.
They use the length of the day as their cue to migrate, not necessarily the food for birds like that. And we're talking about rufous hummingbirds for the most part. This is a hummingbird that breeds in Alaska. They can handle a southeastern United States winter actually pretty well.
Yes, and even there's a couple of rufous hummingbirds in Illinois right now, and it's cold here, but they can. I've seen rufous hummingbirds in December, in January in Illinois. I've seen Anna's hummingbird in December. They're tough little buggers. They can handle it, but the main point here is, if you're maintaining a hummingbird feeder, keep it up. Because these birds moving through right now, actually, it's a good source of food for them as they keep moving on through November and December. And if you get one, it's going to be a good bird, and you're going to be really happy you kept that feeder up.
Take a photo, post it to What's This Bird.
Absolutely. Try to get as many good photos as you can. So that is it for our photo portion.
That was a good group of birds, Greg.
That was fun. That was a fun little group of birds.
So if anyone has any questions, please let us know in the comments. We'll hang around here for a few more minutes, and we're happy to take those questions. I will take the opportunity to remind people one more time that we are two things. I got two things to remind people. The first, we're doing our 2022 ABA Bird of the Year reveal party in Philadelphia on December 19th, 1 month from today. If you are in that area or want to travel to that area, please check out aba.org/bird of the year, or go to aba.org and look at the big header on top of the page and click through. Tickets are $20, $25 on the day of the party. We're going to have a lot of ABA staff there. It's going to be a great time. We're going to talk birds. We're going to get geeky, and we're going to celebrate the 2022 ABA Bird of the Year. Say goodbye to the pileated woodpecker and hello to the mystery bird.
Something else.
Reveal.
And there's going to be some good beer and some live music and some other stuff going on there. So the artist will be there to sign posters.
She will even draw you your favorite bird if you are one of our $100 donors. She will right there in front of you. Just draw your favorite bird.
You can walk up and tell her what your favorite bird is and walk away with a piece of art made for you on the spot. It'll be a lot of fun.
On a real piece of paper, not just a beer napkin. Unless that's what you want. And another thing, if you enjoy these...
Beer napkin could be fun. It's...
And another thing, if you enjoy these sort of free resources that the ABA provides, please consider supporting the ABA through membership. You can go to aba.org/join.
There it is.
And it's right above there, Greg. And join at one of our membership levels. We have a number of different membership levels, starting with student memberships and going all the way up to sustainer, including e-memberships. If you would like to receive our magazines online, you're certainly helping us out by helping to promote a better birding community here in the U.S., Canada, and beyond.
Yep. If you enjoy what we do, join us. Be a supporter of all the things we do, of all the content that we
appreciate it.
We provide for the birding community, and we got some fun stuff in the works too. So
we do. 2022 is going to be a great year for the ABA and for birding, I believe.
I agree.
So I'm going to we're going to vamp for another minute. And while I'm looking for comments, I don't see any comments on any of our various streams.
Twitter seems unusually quiet today.
It is a little quiet. I wonder why that. I have no idea why that is. But Mia McPherson says this was fun. It was fun.
It was fun.
Thank you for being a part of it.
And well, it is. I don't know what it's like there for you now, but here it's a beautiful day after a week of really nasty weather. So I bet a lot of people are out and about having fun, which they should be doing.
Yeah, I can't blame them for that.
And looking for birds.
Yeah, so we'll be back in a couple weeks.
Yep.
The week after the first week of December, and we'll do this again with some more bird photos and bird folks. Otherwise, I guess we'll just say adios and see you next time. Happy Thanksgiving to those of you in the U.S. and happy regular Thursday to those of you who are not.
And we'll see you